Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Sunday, May 19th, 2024, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. This is episode 114, Combat. I am your host, I'm TJ. The rest of the team had some conflicts today, so I'm doing it solo. But with that, as far as the docket is concerned, I'll talk briefly about Fury versus Usyk, and then we'll dive into UFC Fight Night Barboza versus Murphy. And then I'll talk about my picks for UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier, and then we'll dive into the topic of the week for combat, which was, what's a fighter or an athlete or martial art that you'd like to see in combat sports. With that being said, let me take us into Fury versus Usyk. I caught the main event. I caught part of the co-main, and I definitely caught the Moses Itauma fight. But this is what I want to say about Moses Itauma. This dude is a heavyweight southpaw. Just won his first belt last night. Bro, I think he's only had knockouts. And it's just, he's so good as a southpaw, like fighting that front foot battle. Like every time he'd get his front foot on the outside and he'd line up his left hand. And of course, round two, boom, hits homie with just pure fucking lightning and drops him. That was, keep an eye out for Moses Itauma. He's fixing to be the next big thing in the heavyweight world, low key. Going into the Fury versus Usyk main event, look, as a boxing casual, this is what I'm going to say. If you just looked at the first 6 rounds of this fight, even minus like maybe the first 2 rounds, which I think a lot of people gave to Usyk, you would have been like, all right, this is just going to be the Fury show with featuring Usyk, but Fury's going to win this. And then I believe it was either round 7 or round 8, I could be wrong, where we saw Alexander Usyk drop Tyson Fury. And it wasn't oh no, it's debatable. Like, Tyson Fury was trying to actively save himself with those ropes, but like, he got knocked down, bro. And it's just crazy to think. It's like, I'm going to relate this to Hajime no Ippo. If you don't listen to the manga episodes of the podcast, you might not know what I'm talking about. But Hajime no Ippo is a manga that is based around the sport of boxing, and it's an anime as well. But seeing Fury fight, Usyk was like watching a Mashiba fight in real time. Like, the use of his flicker jab, he's got those long levers for arms, and it feels like anything Fury hits you with just hurts. But then Usyk, who, for what it's worth, is at a significant height and weight advantage, knew how to close the gap, get Fury on the ropes, and I think Fury may have made a mistake in his strategy by just kind of being on the back foot and moving backwards all the time. But I guess you can kind of understand it from the perspective of, I'm a tall, lanky fighter. I don't want this dude to be able to bridge the gap, so I'm going to just back up and make sure I'm always within my range and not playing his range game. But Usyk would get to the inside and do work with the overhands, do work to the body, etc. I mean, hey, it was a split decision win, and I remember hearing that there was a immediate rematch clause in the contract. But man, we have an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, which apparently hasn't happened in 2 decades. The last one was Lennox Lewis. So congrats to Alexander Usyk and what this means for the country of Ukraine, and for his like deceased dad. Like, this is just that's amazing. We have not seen this, like I said, in 2 decades. But really great card. If you get a chance to watch it, I highly recommend that you do, because even the undercard fights were pretty good. Moving on to UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Murphy. Hold on, I had it queued up. So, we opened this up with a women's strawweight bout. This is UFC Vegas 92 at the Apex, right, in Las Vegas. But we had Luana Pinheiro versus Angela Hill. Look, man, I'm happy for Angela Hill, because you know what she did? She did not leave that shit up to the judges. Got the win by submission with a nasty guillotine. Like, Luana was defending against those in round 1, I believe. And then in round 2, looked like Luana was going for a single leg after Angela Hill had punished her on the feet. Angela used that opportunity to cinch the headlock and was already positioning her hands like she had a high elbow guillotine. And one thing I thought that she did really well was she kind of set up a butterfly hook so that as she would fall onto her side, onto her back, it would prevent Luana Pinheiro from setting up any type of defense. And of course, she was able to segue that into a roll into mount where she finished it from the top. Beautiful win from Angela Hill, and she's not even really a grappling type, so her game has like just evolved. Like awesome job had for Angela Hill, and of course she was the one I had picked in my picks, right? So I had Hill. Then next up we had Adrian Yanez versus Vinicius Salvador. Excuse me. Hey, look, Yanez just, this man was fighting for his job. Like he like just touched Vinicius Salvador and then touched him, and then Vinicius Salvador got touched. I don't know how to say it, but like the knockout was so vicious in the decision when Bruce Buffer was announcing it. Yanez was in there by himself. That's how bad the knockout was. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get a performance of the night bonus for that one. Angela Hill did, so good for her though. Moving over to the welterweight bout, and of course I had picked Yanez myself. Moving over to the welterweight bout, we had Temba Gorimbo representing Zimbabwe versus Ramiz Brahimaj, who was representing the U.S. Bro, it was like I had the bogus pick on this one. I picked Brahimaj, and then I remembered after the fact that Temba Gorimbo was the dude that The Rock was helping out. He was like a generally good dude. I always remember details about these fighters after I make my decision, and just anyway, I picked the wrong one. Temba dominated all aspects of the game. No matter what Ramiz tried to do, Temba was like 3 steps ahead of him. It wasn't like the most exciting performance, but everybody agrees that Temba won that fight. Next up at welterweight, we had Chaos Williams versus Carlston Harris. Chaos just dispatched Carlston Harris. No offense, but he homie got dispatched. That was the co-main event. Like this, it was insane. Just rewatch. You could probably find the whole fight on Instagram if I'm being honest. Then switching over to the main event, we had Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Edson, of course, being Edson Barboza. Lerone Murphy, I had forgotten that we've covered Lerone before, and I forgot his backstory, which was honestly insane. This man has, excuse me, survived being shot in the face and the neck, has survived a life-altering car crash while on his like bicycle. He got hit by a car. He's like been through literal hell and has made it and come back even stronger. Bro, this was against Edson Barboza. Lerone Murphy, like, man, I'm gonna say he outclassed Edson Barboza. Like, I knew it was bad when Lerone was hitting him with these jabs and Edson was trying to reach out and clinch, but it's like Edson was doing the thing that your coaches tell you not to do all the time. It's like where you reach out for a clinch, whether it be tie clinch or just like for some pummeling. You don't reach out with 2 hands like that, because every time he did it, he just got hit by more punches to his face. Like, Edson took over 100 shots to the dome. Like, yes, he's got a crazy chin, but man, what are going to be the long-term ramifications of taking all that damage? And it's like Edson had a good strategy trying to attack Lerone's legs, but man, Lerone was ready for everything, bro. Like, I don't know what to say. This was somewhat one-sided. Although this fight could have gone a different way off of the ending of that first round. There was that one up kick Edson threw after he slipped, and Lerone capitalized on it to make it a takedown. Edson threw an up kick. It was like an up hook kick that hit Lerone on the side of the face, but it definitely rocked him. I thought it was potentially over, but it somehow went into the second round. But yeah, even before that and after that, it was basically the Lerone show. My thoughts on this card: this was honestly another sleeper card. If you're not watching fight nights, I highly recommend that you do, because for one, you get to see who's up and coming, but for two, like, it was a good card. My favorite fight on the boxing tip, I would say it was the Atama fight on the Fury Usyk undercard. For this fight night, man, what was my favorite fight? What really like had me glued to my seat? Honestly, Edson versus Lerone. That main event was insane. With that, let me switch it up. I'm going to go into the topic of the week first, then I'll give my picks for 302. So is there a martial art or athlete you'd love to see in MMA/boxing? I just abbreviated it to combat sports. Personally, I feel like I've seen some instances of it, but I'd love to see either Jun Fan, right, Jeet Kune Do, or Silat. I think both of those arts, which do have a grappling aspect to them and a striking aspect to them, would go crazy in an MMA setting. And in a boxing setting, Jun Fan intercepting fists, come on, y'all. You can throw in a little Wing Chun in there, too. Which I think, oddly enough, Vasily Lomachenko practices Jun Fan or Wing Chun. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, yeah, I think those arts will go crazy on the combat tip. All right, let me get into my UFC 302 picks. So, UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier. All right, for Brown versus Dos Santos, I'm going with Rude Boy, Randy Brown. For Jailton Almeida versus Romanov, I'm going to go with Romanov. For Kevin Holland versus Michal Oleksiejczuk, I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. For Strickland versus Costa, I'm going to go with Bohachinho, Costa. For Makhachev versus Poirier, I'm going to go with Poirier. I'm standing on it. Standing on it. With that, y'all, that brings me to the end of episode 114 Combat. Thank you, as always, for listening, engaging, and sharing. If you're looking for the podcast, you can find it on any podcast distribution platform by simply looking for Now Mind You Podcast. If you're looking for us on social media, at Now Mind You Pod, that's NOWMINDYOUPOD. If you're looking for me, you can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS4_SKATE. You're looking for Matt at Matt Hambrick on everything, MATTHAMBRIC. And of course, you can find Bryce on Instagram at Ashe Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA. Bay. Thank y'all for listening. I'll see y'all next week. Peace.